problem in semiconductor processing is you are never 100% yield, so you have defects. If I have a small chip and I have a lot of small chips on the wafer and there's a small defect on the small chip, then I just don't take that chip. But if I have a big chip, it doesn't matter whether the defect is here or there or there or there. If you have defects, I can't use the big chip. So that's why this chips becomes incredibly expensive.
So since we are living here in Taiwan, and this is the center of manufacturing and innovation in manufacturing, what technological advancements have you seen very recently with special lighting that people in the West might not yet know about and we could share?
Well, I mean, the most famous or most well talked about special lighting case is actually the semiconductor lithography, where we try to shrink the gap between the traces. So we need ever shorter wavelength light. That's why they call it ultraviolet lighting. So that's way beyond the optical spectrum.
So the human eye could not even
No,
detect.
it's beyond that. And
Wow.
that's within the lithography machines. And all the optical elements that are in these machines, they are super, super special. That's why, and this is why it's also super, super, super expensive. And Taiwan is in a way unique positioned to build up this ecosystem around the semiconductor processing technology. And of course, that is nothing that an average Joe would actually interact with. But that's what this island lives on.
Right. There's an entire economy serving the semiconductor industry on this island, and they building components and parts for them.
Equipment, the testing, inspection, the cleaning, the UV, so many processes that use extremely special chemicals, special lighting, special components. There are hundreds of companies that do one thing for one customer.
That's all they need, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty about bringing a lot of smart heads together. And that's, I think, what Taiwan makes so special, is because it's so dense and it's so concentrated around that. And the semiconductor industry is basically the key of the electronics industry to allow that form factor reduction, the integration, the performance enhancement. It's all going down to the chips.
So I think I heard Elon Musk recently mention that technological innovation doesn't just happen. People think as enough time passes, things just get more advanced. But actually, that's not true. It takes somebody or some people or companies to drive that innovation. Now, here in Taiwan, you're saying the semiconductor industry is driving a lot of innovation. Have you seen how that innovation is spreading to other industries, or other industries may benefit?
Yes, and I think one of the key elements on the semiconductor industry is that you need an economy of scale in order to justify the investment and to go along with it. I mean, why did it take from Apple's first iPhone to where we are right now? It took 12 years. It takes a market, it takes an industry. But then these technologies, which are developed for one mainstream applications, start to proliferate into other industries. And that opens up a lot of new opportunities for niche market players, because they suddenly have tools which they didn't have before to reinvent those niche market applications and bring it to a completely different level. And then that again may trigger another innovation cycle. So it's a little bit of a chaotic situation, but I think we should all not underestimate that between the decision to do something and then executing upon it and delivering a product to the market, it's bloody hard work. And there's a lot of money in there. And a lot of brain cells are being used to do this. And who are these people that are behind that are passionate about doing exactly that? I mean, Elon Musk is, I I call it almost insane. I mean, he's sleeping in meeting rooms in factories, and he's doing all kinds of amazing, crazy things that the normal person would not even dare to do. But it's not just this one entrepreneurs. You also think about there's a second and a third layer of people that drive innovation and bring them to the table and then make an offering which hasn't been made. And I think that requires a level of freedom to do. And that's, I think, Taiwan is kind of uniquely placed, because this freedom is given provided that you have the necessary cash to do it. But generally speaking, the government leaves you quite alone. That's quite good.
Yeah. Uh, Thanks to the democratic nature of the island, things can happen, I think, faster, or there's just more freedom, like you said, to do things, try things.
There's freedom and there is a support to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So for instance, in Hsinchu Science Park, which is the home of most of the semiconductor factories, when they set up the science park, they did something very smart. They forbid to set up restaurants within the park. Why did they do that?
They didn't want people hanging around sipping coffee.
No, they want people to interact with each other. So everybody that wants to go to a restaurant or has to go out. So they're going to meet people from other companies.
Interesting.
And when people meet and talk and exchange ideas, new ideas come up.
So this is similar to the concept of the Apple campus being very flat and wide, so people can have this serendipitous run. You know, they can run into each other in the coffee shop, in the bathroom, and then exchange ideas.
Yes.
Yeah. Meanwhile, when a building is upright, many stories, then it's kind of like a silo. People operate on a silo, right?
Yeah. As we had a joke, in some of the factories in Hsinchu, the distance between the third floor and the seventh floor can be further than between two companies of the people meeting in a coffee shop outside. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I would say everybody who's been in a corporate environment may have experienced this kind of feeling. Yeah. And Taiwan is home to many small companies, different from Korea. Korea is dominated by few big conglomerates, but Taiwan is a bunch of many small, medium-sized companies that are interacting with each other. And based on my personal experience is that the bigger the companies become, the actually less innovative they become. However, the suppliers of these companies, which are then again those small, medium-sized companies, they deliver a lot of innovation to the table. So,
is this just because of the politics and the things that happen once a company reaches a certain size?
Well, I think, I'm not sure what's your take on it, but I feel like when the meetings become occupied with more and more people, there's more and more fear to say something wrong.
Oh.
So I think once a crowd becomes bigger and bigger and there are more and more people expressing concerns and less have dare to do something that hasn't been done. So I believe the bigger an organization becomes, the harder it becomes to iterate and execute on an innovative path.
Right. People are more unwilling to express what their true concern is, what they're really worried about.
Yeah. And the second reason why I believe that what Taiwan makes so special is that the supply chain effects foster competition, especially in those major markets. For instance, we at Selenius, we still sell a lot of metal products out of Taiwan, really made in Taiwan. And then you think about, why did Taiwan have such a capable metal industry? Well, the government did something smart. They set up these big foundries, China Steel and China Aluminium. So they built the base technology and invested into that. And then, when we in the 1990s, when we still didn't have many laptops, but we really still had the PC housings, you needed a lot of metals. Also our audio amplifiers, the stereos, these were all metal cases. So there was a demand for cutthroat, competitive manufacturing process on metal parts. And this still exists today. So the entire supply chain around metal housings, also screws. I mean, Taiwan makes so many screws for the world. We have the joke saying, if something happens to Taiwan, the rest of the world is completely screwed because they run out of screws. Many people don't know that, but that's the reality. Kaohsiung is the screw capital of the world.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, most of the screws are made around Kaohsiung because it's close to the port, and the transportation cost of the screw from the factory to the port is one of the key cost drivers in the total supply chain. So so you have affordable energy, base raw material with a quality level available in Taiwan, and then you have those hundreds or thousands of small companies that turn the base material into the product the customer needs. And then by those bigger companies fostering the competition spurs innovation because everybody is looking how to get ahead, how to make it a little bit more efficient, how to make us a little bit faster, a little bit better. And that's, I think, where a lot of Taiwan's innovation came from. And that's why Taiwan is so good in manufacturing.
Cool.
And that's a really interesting story to experience.
So I want to get back to some of these topics related to special lighting, but I do want to get your input on one very hot topic right now, which is this AI boom and NVIDIA being the company with the highest valuation
Yeah.
in the world as of time of this filming. Can you share what is Taiwan's role in this AI boom that we're seeing right now?
Well, if you go down NVIDIA, where they came from. They came from graphic cards, graphic card processing. So what's about graphic cards? Well, graphic cards, we are rendering scenes. So we have a lot of parallel processing. So what did NVIDIA do? They were able to build faster graphic cards for the gaming industry, therefore put more and more parallel processing into one small device. And then NVIDIA wouldn't have been successful without the advancement of the semiconductor industry, because instead of having multiple processors that have to transport the signal out of the chip through the PCB into another chip, they integrate a lot of chips into one. That works because we get higher and higher density, and we can build bigger chips without having too many defects. Because the problem in semiconductor processing is you are never 100% yield, so you have defects. But if I have a small chip and I have a lot of small chips on the wafer, and there's a small defect on the small chip, okay, then I just don't take that chip. But if I have a big chip, it doesn't matter whether the defect is here or there or there or there. If you have defects, I can't use the big chip. So that's why this chips becomes incredibly expensive. So I think NVIDIA is running a ride on their experience on the graphics, apply that to the large language models and AI, benefit from the power savings by integrating the things and taking advantage of TSMC's gains of being able to have such a high yield, large scale production. And that's true, because when you later on look at the AI boom, the whole total cost of operations, not just the chip, but also the electricity to run it. And yeah, we're just a leader, and they bring this boom. Now, the question I have regarding AI is, isn't it another, maybe this is overestimated, the benefit that is really turning into profits for the companies?
You mean the benefits of the large language models to do writing, to do things like ChatGPT?
Yeah, just to do it, okay. But then also, is the quality there? Is the appetite of the user there? Is the willingness to pay as much as they believe will be paid for that? The future will tell whether that's true.
Right.
My feeling is, yes, AI will be as a great advancement, as one of these technologies which will see it to stay, for sure. But whether it will deliver the amount of return to justify the valuation of these bigger companies. I mean, NVIDIA is now rated at 75% of Germany's GDP,
Wow.
entire GDP. Is that justified? Can one company deliver what 83 million people deliver? I don't know. I have my concerns that this is maybe a little bit too high. But okay, for this we have capital markets. They are there to find the right price for the right things. But it wouldn't be the first stock that peaked and came down.
Right, right. So we're watching that.